Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, historical neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very happy and absolutely honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in that mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Podcast Addict, Audible, CastBox, Player FM, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have a fantastic show lined up for you today. First off, our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, the Admiral of Adventure, Jennifer Swanson, is here to celebrate LEGO Amazing Earth. We'll also be joined by Sasha Gooray. She is here to let us know about her Try Joyful Learning Center. And we'll also be having a listen back to our conversation with Nic Yulo. Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. My friends, I am so excited. We're going to be talking about science, about Legos, and we're going to be doing it with one of my favorite people in the world. Our guest is our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Jennifer, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me back on Reading with Your Kids.
I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about Lego Amazing Earth. Tell me about this book.
So this book is kind of a dream come true. I'm a Lego maniac. I don't know about you. Have you been doing Legos since you were 5?
No. I mean, we play with Legos, but I can never do anything more than just get a big tall stack of them.
Well, okay. So back then when we were kids, they didn't have all these kits with all of the directions, right? You had to make up your own things. Well, so for this book I did, it's called Lego Amazing Earth, and it was with DK Books. I was just approached by DK Books and asked if I'd like to write a Lego book, which whenever you get that in your email, I was like, oh my God. Yes, please let me do a Lego book. So this Lego book is really cool. It's all about designing ecosystems. So you can build your own tide pool. You can build your own volcano. We have estuaries. And then the cool thing is, while I was working on this book, you remember I was on your show for my book, The Lost Forest?
Yes.
Right? The unexpected discovery beneath the waves, which is about the secret underwater forest. Well, guess what I got to include in the Lego book? An underwater forest that you can build. And since I wrote, what I write, there are fun facts about all of these ecosystems. So not only do you get to build these ecosystems and all of these environments, but you get to learn some really cool facts about them, about animals that live inside them and all these different things. And it's just an absolutely gorgeous book. And it was so fun to write. And did I say it's Lego book?
I love this idea. I think that this would be something that I would have loved to have had with my son and my daughter. Both of them love to play and build, yes. But especially to be able to not only build the thing, the ecosystem, but also learning about it and talking about it, because it's such a much better way to learn when you're doing something, you're engaged with something that you're interested in. And by the way, there's some knowledge creeping in, much more effective than sitting down and hearing someone lecture to you.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like to say when I do school visits and talk to kids. Science in action is best. Mm-hmm. Right? So while you're building this, and you could have the kids be curious. So while there are some fun facts about these different environments, like a tide pool and all this kind of stuff, you could also have a conversation with your child at the same time. And maybe afterwards, you could go and look up some books and read more about tide pools, or you could visit tide pools, or you could watch videos about scientists who are walking through tide pools or something like that. Maybe they could even draw pictures of their favorite tide pool creatures, right? I love how you start from this and you kind of expand, or, I'll kind of pull it out, even like you pull taffy, right? And there's so many different ways that you could go with this book. It was so fun to write. I loved it.
Well, what you're describing is one of the things that I'm really passionate about here. Reading with your kids, that's the start. That's yes. The beginning place, and that's where you bond, and the kids get all those different benefits they get from reading, having somebody read with them every night. But it's the activities that it also spurs. So you're reading with your kids, and then you're cooking with your kids, and then you're gaming with your kids, and you're not, you're not as a parent saying, I'm tired, go away, go over there, just do something. Here's a device, look at a screen, get hypnotized.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I mean, instead of handing your kid a screen, hand them a book.
Right.
I mean, that's what I did with my kids, because there weren't screens back then. But this book, it's really funny because I've gone to a couple of events, where I'm selling the books, and the kids gravitate to this book because it's a beautiful, vibrant color cover. It's green. It has like a picture of a moon and a tornado, and all of these things are made out of Legos, and it's going around the earth. And like they pick it up and they just like sit down where they are and they just start paging through this. Yeah. Like mesmerized, like, wow, all of these things. And they learn these little fun facts. One kid was sitting there long enough. He started spouting fun facts to his parents. Did you know this? Did you know this one? And the parents are like, okay, where are you getting this? He's like, the book. And isn't that so much better than the screen?
Right. Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. I love when I'm at an event and kids come over and they're, checking out a book and sharing it with their parents, and just to see the excitement on their faces.
Yes. That's why I do what I do. And that's why I love getting kids excited about science and STEM. Because, and we've talked about it before, it's all around you. Mm-hmm. It's in everything you do. And I love kids that ask me questions. I don't think there's any such thing as a stupid question. I love them asking questions because that means that they're thinking. And some of the questions I have gotten asked, I'm like dumbfounded how incredibly intuitive these questions are. And I've had to like seriously think about, wow, okay, how do I answer this one?
Yeah. The Legos, I don't know how long they've been around, but I think they really spark kids' imaginations.
They did. Well, so here's one. So how I said back when I was a kid, we didn't have all of the kits with the exact instructions. I mean, there were some, but they weren't like it is today. So, I've said it before that I went to the United States Naval Academy for college. So I was there, and I had two younger brothers, and they built an aircraft carrier from scratch, just the two of them, while I was there, and like took a picture and sent it to me. Wow. And it had all different, so it wasn't completely gray, right? It had all of the multicolors because you had to use the blocks that you had. It was gorgeous. And it took them, I don't know, weeks to do this. But it was incredible. It was incredible what they did. And that's what Lego does, is it actually piques your imagination and also teaches you how things interconnect. So it's teaching you engineering at the same time, and math. You have to count how many bricks high and how this is going to work. And It's just, there's so many things that Legos do with your brain that help you.
Yeah. And I also think it's really handy because building like an aircraft carrier, that's something that's really hard to do on your own.
Yes.
So it teaches you those great interpersonal skills where you're sharing and you do this and I'll do that and you have to negotiate and agree on things. So yeah, a great.
Well, I wasn't there, so we assumed that all went well, right? Two brothers working on it.
I said learning how to negotiate. Part of learning how to negotiate is having a couple of fistfights.
Probably. I'm guessing probably, yes.
Now, you were telling me, and this I think is really cool, and that the folks at Lego made a Lego of Jennifer Swanson. There is now a Dean of all things STEM and STEAM Lego.
Well, I mean, sort of. So this Lego actually exists in one of their train kits. But Lego has gifted me the kind of emoji for this Lego minifigure for a really cool event that my book has been chosen for. So every year, the United Kingdom has this huge worldwide or, countrywide literacy event called World Book Day, UK. And what the amazing people at DK did is, so I have my book, which is Lego Amazing Earth. There was another book created called Lego Amazing Space. So DK took half of each of those books and put them together and made a new book called Lego Amazing Universe. So in this book, you can build not only environments on the Earth, but also things that go in space, right? Like maybe even like a moon base, you're going to planets. And the Lego Amazing Universe book was chosen as one of about 13 books to be in World Book Day for UK. It is a huge, huge honor. And in the back of the Amazing Universe book, they have the bio of myself and the other author. And they, instead of putting our images, they gave us emojis of little Lego figures. So I have a little Lego minifigure, which I'm holding in my hand, that, Lego gave to me, basically is giving me this image. Now, are they promoting it and telling people if you buy the set, you can get a Jennifer Swanson? No. But for my purposes, I am a Lego minifigure.
That's fantastic. Jen, I remember we had one of the guests when I was co-hosting Solve It for Kids. We had an interview with a guest who was a Lego artist, and that was his job. Was Legos for big events and corporations, and the things that he was making and told us that he made were really unbelievable, like giant Eiffel Towers and Empire State Buildings and all sorts of great figures.
Yes, his name, I believe. No, that's not his name. Oh, his name, I believe, was Jonathan Lopes. And he builds all kinds of Legos and goes to all of these different, they have these cool festivals around the world, or maybe they're called conferences, whatever, where you can go and you can see all these different Lego structures that are built. It's really, really cool. So yeah, I need to send him a copy of my book and see if he'll build a couple of the environments that I have in here. That would be amazing. But that was a really fun episode that we did.
It really was. It was kind of mind boggling. Like, wow, you can do that with Legos.
Yes, you can. I mean, all of these different things. And he actually builds like we used to build, kind of old school, where he'll create things from scratch that he sees. In fact, I believe he even gets contracts from people who want their buildings made into Legos. Maybe they want to put it in their lobby, right? If you walk into a business and you're like, oh, wow, there's a Lego of your building. I mean, we're all grown-ups, but we're still the little kids that are like, oh, look at the Legos.
Speaking of kids, one of the things that I know about you is that you do some really fun interactive school visits. Can you talk a little bit about what a Jennifer Swanson school visit is?
Oh yeah, we have a lot of fun with my school visits. I've traveled all over the country. I've been up to the Boston area multiple times last year. So there's information for that can be found on my website, Jennifer Swanson Books. But some of my programs are like astronaut, aquanaut. Which one are you? Let's discuss going into space or down in the ocean and talk about how you compare and contrast them. One of my favorites is for my book, Save the Crash Test Dummies. And we play a game that is, do you have what it takes to be a human crash test dummy?
Are we throwing kids off the stage? How high they bounce?
No. Of course, it's all through video and whatever, but they get to imagine, sort of, we kind of go on a mental, vision journey to imagine what it'd be like if we were in a crash test dummy and we were, banging into cars. But what we're doing is actually learning about the history of car safety engineering, which if I told you that up front, you'd be like, oh, great. A presentation about history of car safety engineering. That sounds fun. But when I tell you, you're sort of going to be the crash test dummy for the day, that makes it more fun, right? And I have so many other ones. I have Beastly Bionics, where we design our own biomimetic and animal robots. So basically you take an animal and what it does, and you figure out how turning that into a robot would help humans. And I've had schools send me pages and pages of kids' designs. One kid designed a shark that could eat the garbage in the ocean. Now, I would like that made, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that would be a very cool. But why stop with sharks? I mean, a whale, much bigger.
Oh, yeah.
No garbage.
Yeah, big, huge whale. Yeah.
So much fun. A lot of authors that I speak to and that I've seen, when they do a school visit, it's like, oh, I'll get up, I'll read my book, I'll take some questions. When did you discover, or did you just always know, if I'm going to be in a school, I'm going to be in front of kids, I need to be animated, I need to get their attention?
Yes, that's me. I'm the second one. In fact, when I have to, so I'm much better with older. I'm really good with older kids because I like to get them involved. We ask questions, we discuss, we play games, we raise hands, we vote, we do all these different things. The first time they asked me to talk to pre-Kers and kindergartners, I was nervous. I was very nervous because I was like, what am I supposed to do? And some of my friends were like, well, you just read your book. And I was like, really? That's it? That's what I do? So for my Footprints Across the Planet, which is a picture book, which starts out with footprints, I read my book, but along the way, I have the kids, the kindergartners, hold up their paw prints. So they might hold up claws. I'm like, what does a tiger have? And then we show claws and we roar, right? And we might do, what does a giraffe look like? And some of them have to think about it, and then they'll hold up a fist, which is kind of like a giraffe hoof. So we go through all of these different things, even though, yes, I'm reading the book, but then at the end, I play this game called Name That Paw Print. And I put a paw print up there and they have to guess what it is. And I was actually up in your area sometime last year and they had, I don't know, like 300 or so first graders in there. And the teachers are like, okay, they can probably only sit still for like 20 minutes. We were in there for 45 minutes. And they were blowing the roof off this gymnasium, screaming about, yelling all of the different animals it could be, because I gave them clues. And then when they got it right, they cheered, and the principal comes in and is like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, we're just having fun. It was awesome. It was awesome.
That's great. Hey, getting back to Lego Amazing Earth, you were telling us you got to create these different ecosystems and write about them, and including the underwater forest. How did the process go? Did you create the text and the story about the different ecosystems, hand it to the Lego engineers, and then they started building it? Or it's like, well, we know how to build this, so can you write about that?
No, I was pretty much, now, of course, I had to get the topics that I picked, all of the different ecosystems, approved by DK Books and then also by Lego. And yes, I was aware, they did give me a list of, we have these if these are the ones you want to include, like they had volcanoes, but I have like 2 or 3 different kinds of volcanoes. So they had to make different cones, a cinder cone one. And some of the ones they didn't have, like the underwater forest. And so once the list was approved by Lego, then they had their Lego engineers build them. And so the first time I saw it all together is when they send you the PDF of all of the images with all of your words around it. And I was so excited, especially for the underwater forest one, because they put a little tiny aquanaut right there in the forest. And I told our friend, Dr. Brian Helmuth, who is at Nahant Marine Research Lab, I told him, that's him right there. I was like, you're in the Lego book. So they're all excited about it. But yeah, the engineers were the ones that actually figured out how to build it. And they're so creative. There's even animals, like there's an octopus, there's a shark, wow. There's crabs, all these different things. It's really cool.
That is cool. Well, we should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Lego Amazing Earth, find out more about Solve It for Kids, and find out more about your great interactive assemblies.
So you can go to my website, which is jenniferswansonbooks.com. I have lots of tabs on there if you want to see about the books. I have a books tab. There's a tab for teachers, and you can find information about my school visits. I go all over the country. I do virtual and in-person ones. And you can also find out about the podcast that I do called Solve It for Kids. But it also has its own website, so you can check out solveitforkids.com, and you can listen to one of the, oh my gosh, I think we're up to 223 episodes now. Wow. And listen to some of the scientists and engineers and experts that we interview.
That sounds great. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Lego Amazing Earth. Our guest has been our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Jen, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Jed. It's always a great pleasure.
Hey there, families. Are you looking for an exciting way to bond and learn together? Look no further than our STEM is Family Fun video series. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of STEM through hands-on activities right in your own home. Our series features lessons from experts at renowned institutions like the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum, the National Children's Museum in Washington, D.C., and Children's Museum Houston. From making homemade rainbow bridges to creating an oboe out of a straw, there's something for everyone in the family to enjoy. So grab your lab coats and get ready for an adventure. Go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on the STEM is Family Fun link at the top of the page and let the learning and laughter begin. STEM is Family Fun, where learning and bonding go hand in hand. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Georgia. Our guest today is here to empower K-8 learners to turn challenges into gateways for joyful success. I love that. Please welcome to the show, Sasha Gooray. Sasha, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Wonderful. I love that tagline that I found on your website for the Joyful Learning Center.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I made a mistake. It's not the Joyful Learning Center. It's Try Joyful Learning Center.
Right. That's correct.
Tell us why you chose to use the word try joyful instead of the.
So try is actually started from the acronym of the real you, because when I started working with children, I'd realized that there were a lot of lies that were placed on them, either wrong thinking themselves, misconstruing what loved ones and teachers had said to them, putting a lot of pressure on themselves, cultural pressure, and they were being really bogged down and not enjoying learning because of all of this pressure that's been placed on them, whether it was meant to or not meant to. A lot of children are walking in bondage right now. They don't love to read. They don't love to learn. And I'm just very passionate that everything with learning, everything with life starts with igniting the fun in it. And it starts with really truly stepping into who we're called to be. And so it's really unmasking. It's unpacking. It's first taking off these lies of, I'm a poor reader or I don't understand reading, and putting on the truth that I love to read, that books were created for me, that I'm a writer myself. I'm someone who understands stories and I'm able to summarize and explain it. And so I really started with I started with like the Real You tutoring, but then it was a little odd. And because the whole thing was just joy. So when I came up with the Joyful Learning Center, because unmasking and unpacking the wrong beliefs children have of themselves and putting on their real selves and their real thoughts was such an important foundation of the way that I tutor and desire children to grow as they propel into their bright, fulfilling future. I kept the try in there for that reason.
You mentioned that kids are being, I hope I'm saying this right, lied to by their parents.
Oh, no, I apologize. That's, if I said that, I said it wrong.
I might have heard it wrong.
Yeah, so let me elaborate and expound on that.
Sure.
Children are believing lies. For the we all do, right? There's these pressures we place on ourselves, and whether it's we feel the pressure from society, feel a peer pressure, compare ourselves to other siblings. There's a pressure that I've noticed children have, and I have, and adults we can have, of putting a false sense on ourselves of what we have to do, that we haven't arrived yet, we're further behind. And I'll say that I've worked with many, many parents, and I haven't met one parent that doesn't love their child immensely, doesn't desire for their ceiling to be their child's floor. However, there are some times that a parent would say, you've got this, try harder, or, push their child, and their child will have a wrong understanding of that. They would think like, oh, my parent isn't happy with me, when that, again, I've never worked with a parent that didn't love their child, that weren't pleased with their success. It's just sometimes we hear things wrong. And so I love to be that glue in the family, to that it's not just helping your child read, write, do math, but really bridge that communication gap, because there's sometimes that children will put this pressure on themselves thinking that their parents are saying something negative, where their parents are saying something very positive. They just desire their child to be the best them.
Okay. Why do you think kids aren't hearing the intention their parents want to give to them?
There's many reasons why that happens. As a Christian, I believe that the enemy operates in our lives, and that there's lies that can be spoken to us. I also know that in the school systems right now, and I'll preface it by saying that the school system isn't the problem. Families isn't the problem. Like my goal is never trying to figure out, okay, point fingers, who's the problem, but just let's work for a solution. But there has been a concept called push-down learning, where it's just an accelerated way of learning. Let's grab a lot of material. Let's learn it quickly in this technological age where there's a lot of information. And what has happened with that is that there's less time being spent on pronouncing sounds, learning phonics. And because children are moving quicker, I've noticed that they haven't had the time to learn foundational things till it's mastered. And because of that, if they fail, a year down the line, or stumble a year down the line, and they can't quite articulate or understand what happened, that they start putting this pressure on themselves.
Fascinating. I know that we've had a number of authors who have a day gig as kindergarten teachers who've come on and expressed real frustration at the fact that they can't allow kids to play anymore, and kids aren't getting the chance to learn all those social skills they learn by playing, by sharing, and figuring things out on their own. Instead, kindergarten's become kind of first grade. And that's very, very frustrating for them. That's kind of sounds like what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Play has been taken out of kindergarten in many schools. Recess has been shortened or taken away. And so when we're just learning, and there's no break, there's no water cooler, there's no coffee break as us adults need, the children need it even more as their minds are developing. It's really put a lot of pressure on them. And then we see, mental health among children is a national emergency now. Children as little as 5 years old are in the ER for mental health emergencies. And so I think when we try and look at these issues as separate, we're not able to see the root, that exactly what the other teachers are saying, that developing social skills, taking time to teach life skills like time management has to be baked in with the academics for each child to grow and be everything they've been designed to be and find success as a future adult.
Mm. So what are you doing differently in your center, and what can parents do differently to kind of mitigate that situation?
Yeah, so it's a lot of research has been done, especially post pandemic, when it exposed this problem. It exposed the problem of push down learning and children just not getting the time they needed to master, and it exasperated it, right? And so all the research shows that taking more time, whether it's, after school programs or tutoring, and also making it fun, making it enjoyable to the child. And so what I do is I provide a personalized approach. So I integrate academic, social, life skills, and I personalize it based on first finding out what is the root cause of the child's problem. So for reading, some children, it could be that they weren't explicitly taught how to keep their eyes on the paper. And for someone like me, who I just know how to do that, it may seem easy. However, some children who don't have that social skill of like, how do I sit and where do I look? And how do I keep my eyes, as for early readers, on the words and not the pictures? And so that's some explicit social skills teaching that some children need before you can even start with sounds. And so I really dive deep to personalize, figure out what is the actual root and start from there. And then just spending time getting to know the children and the family. So fostering connections, getting to know their interests, reading things that they're interested in, and also just working with the parents I provide video messages and in-depth progress reports that have in-home recommendations so the parents will know individually what does their child need. But on a high level, with what parents can do for children with reading is something you're passionate about, reading with their children. And it's like reading with as a family, it does so many wonderful things on so many levels. Like first, you're sparking imagination and curiosity about each other, about yourselves and your future together. It's giving the family time to sit down and just ask each other questions. It creates memories that you could look back and on a car ride or at the grocery store, laugh at part of the book and maybe have a little joke about how you would end it differently. It also really helps parents draw in and draw out what's meaningful for them and their children. So for instance, let's say you're a husband and wife or a couple who love to travel and you desire your children to want that to grow in them. Well, if you read a fiction story about people who are traveling different places and your child's imagination is being sparked, they're getting excited, and suddenly everyone in the family wants to travel. And so a lot of the things that can be pain points in a family of like, how do I get my child to enjoy things I enjoy or to fall in line with the things that I have moral values on? Even reading a fictional story about a character who has that shared value is such a wonderful, easy way to get everybody with that same mindset and that unity.
Yeah. We've been celebrating the fact that reading with your kids is a wonderful way to instill those values in your kids, having those conversations about what the characters are doing. I love the fact that when you're reading with your kids and you're asking them what would they do or what do they think about this, I think it really empowers kids. It lets kids know that, hey, that's the most important person in my life, and that person wants to know what I think. That must mean I'm pretty cool.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And what's also wonderful is it pulls the child higher in their vocabulary, their reading, and also indirectly their writing. So I had a friend once ask me, like, how do you become a better tennis player? And her answer was that you play with a tennis player that's even better than you. So especially if a child dislikes reading or struggles with reading, if the parent reads to them, or even they sit together and listen to the audio version of the book together, that's at least 2 grade levels higher than what the child can currently read, it'll pull them up. It'll give them the vocabulary, the literary value that's higher than what they can read. So it actually helps them read at a faster rate. It accelerates their own reading.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you get, at such a young age, so passionate about sharing this information and helping kids, as you say, turning challenges into joyful success?
Yeah, so it really started, my career started like sideways. Oh, it started with my family, with my daughter. So I was in corporate America for over 10 years, and I had various jobs, management, HR, even like I ended in accounting. And my daughter was diagnosed with autism, and she was given a lot of things that she wouldn't be able to do. And I just knew her. Like as a mother, I just knew who she was called to be. And I just saw her as the future spouse, the future parent, the future employee and employer. And there were certain things that she was given that I was like, I just can't come into agreement. And so I spent her first years just advocating, learning more and advocating. And I was told early on that she would be very delayed in reading because she got diagnosed at a young age at 3. And at 3, she couldn't speak at all. And I was told, listen, we're going to get her to speak. She, started saying sentences at 4 through a lot of wonderful intervention and therapy, a lot of wonderful support we had. And when she entered kindergarten, she couldn't read. And so she repeated kindergarten and she still couldn't read. And I was advocating and working full time, but trying to advocate. And it got to the point where I just knew it. I knew like these labels weren't who she really was. It wasn't the real her. So I just took a huge risk. I just pulled her out of school and I said, you know what? I believe I know how to teach her through all the different things I've learned, all the different classes I've taken, and just with a mother's heart and a passion for her. I was like, I just know she's an advanced reader. There's just the conversation she would have and different things. So I took a risk. I pulled her out of school. I homeschooled her. I left my job. And I said, I'm going to spend an entire year, and my only job is homeschool mommy. And so I did that. And for an entire year, we did that. And she's moved along. And when I started, she was 2 years behind in reading. And 5 years later, she's 2 years ahead. So she's in 6th grade reading at an 8th grade level. When I first pulled her out of school, she told me she would never want to read. And when she grows up, she'll hire people to read the menu to her and walk around and read to her. She hated, she used to say, I hate reading. And now I can't get her to stop reading. There'll be times we're in the car and she has the option to watch something on her tablet or read, and she reads. And so as I was telling people some of the steps I did and I worked with her, they were like, we think this isn't just for your daughter. We believe that you have something that other families are looking for and other children could use. And so I was like, let me try tutoring. And as soon as I did, I was like, oh, this is what I was created for. I love it.
That's wonderful. And I'm so happy that your daughter is reading and loving to read and experiencing that success. Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you. And I have to say a huge part of it was me reading to her.
Yeah.
Reading, just us sitting together by the fire with hot cocoa, or even sometimes quickly, like in the long lines at the grocery store, just pulling the book out and getting a page in, just making reading part of our lives and our lives together was a huge piece.
Yeah. Where do you think you got the courage to take that step, to leave your job, to take a year and just to be with your daughter?
Yeah, it's love. Love makes you do crazy things, right?
It certainly does. It certainly does. Tell me, so if I'm in Atlanta and I have my kid, I can come to your center. But if I'm not in Atlanta, we have people listening from all over the world. Are there ways that you can help families that are not local to you?
Yes, and I apologize not mentioning this before. I'm actually 100% remote. So I only provide online tutoring. And the reason I do this is because I'm also passionate about developing life skills. We are in a technological age, and it's getting more and more that way, where we're required to work online, required to work on the go. And I do believe that we can have fun working online, that we can stay focused working online. And I have a way of baking in breaks, doing a lot of movement while we do things online, so that it helps families that are on the move and they need the support online, but it's also teaching that life skill for each child, that there is a way for me to be productive online where I can enjoy learning, I can get things done, and I can be successful. And so that's why I've been enjoying the online environment.
Wonderful. Well, I am a huge proponent for online learning. I recognize it may not be for everybody, but I started taking continuing education classes online maybe back as early as 2013, 2014. And it was one of the reasons my daughter chose to do her bachelor degree totally online, and that was the best decision that she made. She was able to earn that degree, the same degree that the kids who were attending physically earned. She was able to work in the industry that she wanted to work in and get 4 years experience. And it was a lot less expensive than it would be for her to have attended physically. So I love that you're able to provide these services to people wherever they may be. What should people do if they want to get in contact with you and talk to you about whether or not this is right for their family?
Yes, so if you go to my website, tryjoyful.org, there's a scheduling app right there. So please go ahead and sign up for a free consultation. It's just a free hour long where we can talk about your child, I can learn a little bit more, give you some quick suggestions just based on what I'm hearing. And then I'm doing a special right now that I'm doing a first free session with a child, a 50-minute session, so that I can pair with the child, get to know them, and then they can get to know me so the family can make the right decision. Is this a right fit to move forward and give us a try?
Wonderful. We've had a really fun time speaking to the driving force behind the Try Joyful Learning Center. Our guest has been Sasha Gooray. Sasha, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from New York City. Our guest is returning to celebrate her brand new picture book. Please welcome back to the show author, illustrator, fantastic person, Nic Yulo. Hey, Nic, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me back.
I'm delighted to have you back. We had so much fun learning about patches and learning how to draw patches, and it was such a delight, and everybody loved that so much. I know they're going to love learning all about the new book, Out of the Blue.
Yeah, I am so excited for this next book to come out.
So tell us all about Out of the Blue.
Yeah, so Out of the Blue brings to you another little girl and animal pairing, this time of the marine variety. So instead of PN patches, we now have coral and kraken, again with the consonants. And Coral, our main character, is on a field trip, a very special field trip to an aquarium with the rest of her schoolmates, and she is the smallest, tiniest, most quiet person in the class. And she's used to being left behind and overlooked, and she finds another tiny, tiny creature that is also used to being overlooked.
Ooh, so neat. Well, being a fairly tiny, well, tiny isn't the word, short, I would say vertically challenged person. It's been a long time since I've been tiny. But I can kind of relate to Coral. You know, people overlook me sometimes.
Yeah, I think everyone at one point in their life is used to feeling invisible, and I wanted to write a story about how that feels, especially to a kid, and what it takes to build your confidence enough to let you shine at the end.
Yeah. That's an expression we hear a lot of these days, that the whole idea of being seen.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean for you?
I feel like it can mean a lot of things. With this particular book, I like the idea of tying in to the science of marine life. So this particular octopus has a survival mechanism that makes him bioluminescent. So he is used to feeling invisible and then turns on the bioluminescence when he needs to. So in that way, I think our main character, Coral, finds that there is a use to being invisible and choosing when to come out of your shell. Yeah, I think this is my book for introverted kids. I was very much an introverted kid.
Mm-hmm. 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 Do you think that being introverted was something that kind of spurred you on to become the amazing illustrator you are right now? It's because it's like, well, this is a way I can express myself.
Yes, you are very kind. Thank you. But yes, I think that was the main reason I started writing as a kid, because it was very difficult for me to be in a group of people, to have conversations. So I would always have a notebook that I would write things down and like try to sketch everything I could. That was my way of communicating.
I thought you were going to say I was always had a notebook and I would write down what I would say. Like I do that. I get into a conversation, then you know, like an hour later, I go, oh, I should have said this, but then it's the context is gone.
That's very smart. I like listening to other people and writing down what they say. Yeah. Very good ideas happen.
Yeah. So what is it about the octopus that inspired you to include it in the story?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge nerd, as we all know at this point. And octopuses are extremely intelligent creatures. And there's so much variety in what they can do, the subspecies of octopuses. This one in particular is, well, the one that he's based on is known as the adorabilis because it's adorable, but also because it's tiny. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of playing with bigness and smallness. You have a very small, tiny main character. You have a very small, tiny animal main character in a very big world trying to find their way.
Mm. Yeah. I'm imagining that there's lots of kids can relate to Coral, that, you know, they feel small, they're in this big world, especially if they're living in a city like New York City or Boston where there's so much going on, there's so many people around. I've been to towns where literally everybody knows each other, and so that's a very different feeling. But when you're in a big city, it's all these people around, you're in a school with maybe 500, 1,000 kids, and yeah, I can see where they could relate to Coral.
Yeah, I hope that they do. When we first meet Coral in the beginning, the first thing that is said is that she has very big dreams, but she is very small. So she has no idea how to make them become a reality. And it's in meeting Kraken and going through the aquarium and finding out how different everything is in the marine ecosystem of the aquarium that she's like, oh, there is space for everyone. And she learns eventually to speak up.
Yeah. How is it for you? Because I know when we first spoke, you telling us about Patch of Sky, and that was the first book that you wrote and illustrated, and it was your debut writing, debut as an author. And I think you told me that you always considered yourself an illustrator who writes. Is that the same now, or are you starting to think of yourself more as an author who is also a pretty amazing illustrator?
I think it's so different because picture books, I'm working on another project that I am more an author, I would say, on that one. It is for older readers, middle school readers. It is novel format. So it really depends on the project. This one in particular was challenging because Patch of Sky was relatively simple is not the right word, but it was very specific in its color palette, in the use of white space. There was a lot of blank space and graphic sort of design. In this book, everything is illustrated. So there's a lot more colors, a lot more characters, both in the fish and human variety. So it was very tough. It's also longer than Patch of Sky. So yeah, it took a lot of sleepless nights and way more skills to refine.
I have to ask, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but did you get into the book and, now suddenly you have to draw all this ocean and all the things that are in the ocean and say to yourself, why did I do this? I should have just made this a lot simpler.
I feel like that tends to happen with all of the things that I do is I get excited when I don't quite know how I'm going to pull it off exactly. And then there's a crisis that happens at some point in the process. But that's how I know I'm on the right project, is I'm excited to figure this out. Luckily, I hope I did figure it out by the end of it. But I remember the research process for this was far more extensive. I was living practically in the American Museum of Natural History in their marine wing with the giant whale in the ceiling. Just finding out which character should I include. I wanted there to be realistic facts that binded all of the characters. So that was really fun.
Yeah. You mentioned the whale in the ceiling. I had, for many years, I would celebrate New Year's Eve with the beautiful people in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And for, I think, 5 years, my stage was in the Whaling Museum, and I performed underneath a whale skeleton.
Oh, my God.
And one of the things that always blew my mind was how immense this creature was. And all I was looking at was the bones. And I'm like, oh, you throw skin and blubber and all that other stuff. And it's just, the ocean is like this incredible place that we really don't know all that much about.
Yes, I agree. I think it is a fascinating, slightly terrifying place. I've always been, as a kid, afraid of the ocean, which I find really ironic given this book and the book that I'm working on now. But yeah, I feel like we know very little. There's a lot more that we can discover, I feel.
Yeah. Well, we've had some scientists on the podcast here, and I forget the number, but I think they said we know about 5% of what's going on in the ocean. And the ocean covers most of the earth. So
yeah, I feel like we know, please don't quote me on this, but I feel like we know more about space than we do our own ocean.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah. There's hands down. We know way more about space than we do about the ocean. And that's kind of crazy.
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Do you think that a book like this, and Coral, I'm seeing kids that are going to read this book and they're going to relate to Coral and the octopus, and they're going to be inspired to find their place in the world. Do you think any might be inspired to become oceanographers?
I hope so. I hope that they find something in this to spark at least some kind of curiosity, either in conservation, or in the ocean specifically. I wanted or in general, I tend to want to infuse some real science facts into the picture books that I do. Because again, nerd. So if I can like sort of spark that curiosity in a reader, that would be the most amazing thing.
Yeah. You know, you keep referring to yourself as a nerd, and that's fine. It's wonderful. But you made me think of the fact, one of the reasons I love doing the Reading with Your Kids podcast is that I get to speak to an illustrator like you, and we learn your process, and you teach us how to do, to draw patches. But then I also get to sit down and speak for a half an hour or so with somebody like Dr. Sylvia Earle, who is the world's most renowned oceanographer and astronauts. And so being a podcaster, being an author, being a creative like you are, it gives you license, it gives you the excuse to go off and really just kind of explore the way we did when we were kids, when, we didn't have responsibilities. We could just go, today I want to study the ocean. You can just go and spend all the time in the museum. You get to do that as an adult. How cool is that?
It is very cool. I have the coolest job in the world in my
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. We'd love for you to subscribe to the show wherever you find it. We love the iHeartRadio app. We love Spotify, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you could leave us a review. That will help people find us and encourage them to join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, the Admiral of Adventure, the Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Also want to thank Sasha Gooray and Nic Yulo. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.